the video version of my journal. I'm Steffanie Rivers. Come on into the conversation. I am multicasting on several platforms, so you could be watching on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. On whatever platform you're watching, we want to welcome you to the conversation. I'm going to put the link in the chat in case you want to call in, or you can just text me and I can read your comments aloud. We want to thank you for joining. If you're one of my subscribers, I appreciate your support. And if you're new to this conversation, I know you're going to hear something that you want to share. So be sure to like and share and subscribe so that when I post new videos, you will be the first to know. Now, there is a TikTok video that has gone viral showing a passenger on a flight having a meltdown because of a crying baby that apparently had been crying for an extended period of time. Now, if you haven't seen that video, I do plan to show it to you, but just wanted to talk to you a little bit first. I'll show it in a few minutes. I feel the need to address this issue because as a flight attendant for the past 10 years, I've had to listen to a few crying babies on a few flights. So I can confirm that crying babies can test anybody's patience. But this guy started yelling and cursing at the flight attendants and yelling and cursing at other passengers. And when the flight attendant told him that he needed to calm down before he got escorted off in handcuffs, the man even suggested that the baby should be put in handcuffs and removed from the flight for doing what babies do, for crying. So, mind you, this flight was, I think it was leaving Orlando, or they were trying to leave Orlando, or maybe they had just arrived in Orlando. I'm not sure. Orlando was in that one of the destinations or the departure city. Now, of course, we know that's home of Mickey Mouse and Disney World. So there are bound to be at least 10 kids and babies on any given flight to or from Orlando. You just have to deal with it. It is what it is. So add to that the possibility of weather and delays. Babies are going to cry. They're just going to cry. So if you have had the experience of being on a flight where babies are crying, or children, not necessarily babies, but you've been on there with children and you've had an experience and you want to share it, I'll put the link in the chat, or you can type it out for me and I will share it with the viewers. So let's take a look at this video. And it is a TikTok video. It is in the public domain, but I am sharing it nevertheless, with the understanding that it is in the public domain and it's okay to share it. Or if you want to just see the video on your own, it is on YouTube as well. They posted it on YouTube. So let's take a look at this video and then we'll come back and discuss it.
Holding pattern for weather, and an SW, a passenger loses his mind over a baby.
That child has been crying for 40 minutes. Lower that, and you can't put your fucking finger about things like that. Calm the child down, please. I had headphones on. I was sleeping. Why is the baby yelling? I'm not screaming. You want me to scream? You want me to scream? I'll fucking scream. Please stop the baby. Please. Bro, please. that child was a black baby, what the fuck would be happening right now? Yo, I know you're not going there. You're not going there. I'm fucking going there. We're not in Florida yet.
We need to call
You can't do what the fuck you feel. Fuck. I was asleep the whole time. You haven't served me anything. No, anything.
Try to keep my calm, but if I wasn't on this plane, I
Because there's a child crying on the flight, non-fucking stop.
Okay.
That's what's
Who's
happening.
worse, a baby or a grown-ass man acting like that?
Can you lower that voice?
Of course, I've had this video showing, waiting to be shown, and now all of a sudden it is needing to, let me see if I can get it going again. At any rate, this is the video, and you can see it on YouTube as well. It's called "Man Flips Out on a Crying Baby During a Southwest Flight" on the 17th of April. And so it is a 4-minute video. So I won't show you the whole thing, but you get the gist of what was going on. This guy essentially was cursing, and he was just so upset. And again, I realized that babies cry, but that and it can be a little frustrating and agitating for people who are not used to being around babies. I don't even have kids or nieces or nephews, and I realize that babies do that. That's just something that you have to be prepared for. At any rate, during this video, the guy even questioned, if this baby was a black baby, somebody would have shut the baby up already. And to that I say, babies are babies, regardless of their race. Babies cry, dogs bark, cats meow. It's just life. Okay.
Let's be rational. Hold on. You want to be rational? No. Don't tell me what the fuck I need to do. Let's be rational. We are in a fucking tin can with a baby in a goddamn echo chamber, and you want to talk to me about being fucking okay?
Okay, because you're yelling.
So
That's
is the baby.
Okay, so you're a man.
Did that motherfucker pay extra to yell?
Okay.
No.
So,
Shut up. Fuck you and shut up.
no.
I'm trying to find this video so I can turn it off because this guy is going. Okay, so I apologize for not warning you about what I did say he was cursing. So yeah, he said more than a few curse words. And so yeah, so instead of me showing you more, I just say go and look at the whole video. It's about 3.5 minutes long, but I showed you enough to let you understand what the people were going up, what this guy was dealing with, as well as the other 100 passengers on the flight. Some of them thought it was funny. If you keep looking at the video, some of them were even laughing at him for being so upset about the baby, because as I said, babies cry. But I can understand that if you're not used to being around children or babies, you might not know how to deal with that. And clearly this guy, that was his issue. It was more than about the baby crying. It was about him, his low level of tolerance for a lot of things. So we'll just keep it at that. But if you are a flight attendant, or you have a passenger, or you have been a passenger on a flight with a crying baby, feel free to share your experience. Call in, or you can type it out, and we'll talk about it. Do you think this man was being unreasonable, the way he acted? Because they ended up calling authorities, and then like TSA, or I think they ended up calling the airline management security to come on board to try to escort the guy off. He would not get off the flight. They had to deplane everybody. So essentially they were like, okay, you won't get off, where everybody getting off. So They had to take everybody off the flight, and I'm not sure how they handled it. I guess they walked him off. Once everybody has to deplane, then there's no reason for him to stay because the flight is not going. So then when they get him off, then of course they're like, okay, come on back. We're gonna leave without him. And the woman sitting next to him, I think, turned out to be his wife. She was humiliated because she didn't seem that agitated by the baby. But at any rate, since I've been a flight attendant, I've seen articles where passengers are talking about how they would prefer to fly on flights where there are no children under the age of under a certain age. They want for them to be not allowed if they're a certain age, unless it's just a full-on baby flight, a full-on parents and babies only flight. That's what some passengers say they want. And that would be hard to do. And here's why. Because you never know when someone's going to show up with a toddler or a baby. Why? Because to my understanding, you don't have to say that you're traveling with a toddler or a baby because they're considered to be lap children. They sit on your lap, so they don't take up any more space than the adult carrying them takes up. They sit on their lap. So there's no need to officially notify the airline that they're showing up because they're not paying anyway. Children under 2 years old and under, they don't pay to fly because they are lap children. So that's why it would be hard, even if they wanted to do that, separate all the parents and babies on one flight from everybody else, even if they wanted to do that. So an airline wouldn't be inclined to reserve a whole flight for a bunch of little miniature people who don't pay for a flight anyway. So, and the airline is in the business of making money. And so, people who make money off of parents and children, and I know it's not all about the money, it is about the comfort of other passengers as well. I totally get that. But here's what I wanted to show you too. This is not the first time that someone has made a video and complained about crying babies. There was another video that got, I think, 750,000 views. So let's see. This is it right here. I'm going to share it. You might have seen it yourself. So let me take that off and I'll show it to you. It's only 10 seconds. Okay, that was it. So she essentially, just did a quick video and just 10 seconds worth of crying. And if you are any moms out there, I'd love to hear your feedback on what you felt about what was going on. I can't imagine the parents in this situation where the guy cursing man versus crying baby just now that I showed you. I can't imagine how the parents felt. It's bad enough. It's hard enough. You're trying to get your baby to calm down and be quiet. You got passengers looking at you like you are the worst parent in the world because you can't control a crying baby. And the baby is feeling some kind of way, some type of anxiety, which is why they are crying. And we'll go over some issues as to why babies cry. But I find it interesting that the same people who are intolerant of babies are okay with flying with pets. They will tolerate a big ass dog sitting at their feet barking on the flight, or cats crying the entire flight, or pooping during the flight, but a baby crying, they think that's too much. Some people suffer from pet allergies. Some people are afraid of pets, yet passengers will show up with pets bigger than a toddler and expect everybody else on the flight to be okay with it. I don't understand that. Not the pet, but the passenger. So let's say if you show up to a full flight and there's someone there who has a dog, like a service animal. Service animals are normally like, let's say 100 pounds at least, regular size, full grown pet. And or it could be a service animal, might be, they call them, what is the other name? Emotional support animal. A little small, little, Fido, like that they sit on their laps. But at any rate, you've got a pet, a dog or what have you in the cabin. You're allergic, or you just don't want to, you're afraid, or you just don't want to sit next to that pet. Guess who has to leave the flight? Not the passenger with the pet, but the person who had an issue with the pet. That is the person who has to leave the flight if they refuse to fly with the pet. And that's the person who will be rescheduled. So it's getting to the point where people will tolerate an animal on a flight before they tolerate a pet on a flight. But a baby crying, that's too much for some people to handle. Now, I know that babies can cry nonstop. And usually there's something, especially they're doing it for a reason. Babies just don't cry just to cry. Most of the time there's something going on with them. And so that's why it's important for parents to be prepared to meet the needs of their children, no matter how old those children are. So I wrote a book. Yes, I'm a published author. Can you believe it? The Do's and Don'ts of Flying. And I happen to have it right here. The Do's and Don'ts of Flying, a flight attendant's guide to airline travel secrets. Try to get it so you can see it, by Steffanie Rivers. Yes. And so I wrote it a few years ago, and I thought about doing an update on it. And so one of the chapters in the book talks about flying with children, because that's a thing. People show up with their kids. So I talk about not changing your baby's diaper on the seat back tray. And then incidentally, I talked about a flight that I was on. I worked coming from Orlando, as a matter of fact. Orlando, and just so happened, because this flight the Cursing Man versus Crying Baby, on the flight from Orlando, at least 30 children were aboard with their parents. There was constant crying and babies being pacified in the aisle. People, when they have kids, they walk them up and down the aisle. They want to let them run in the aisle. So, there's a limit to what is allowed during the flight to pacify a child. But this was going on this flight, 30 children with their parents. And one mother even laid her toddler on the floor and changed the baby's diaper while men in business suits looked on in first class. So the good news is that it took her only a few minutes. So nobody had to smell, so I just went into what happened. And I talk about toys are not us. So when you show up with a child, there are some things that parents need to be prepared for. And sometimes it's obvious that a parent has not prepared, because simple little things that they could do, that because I've been flying for 10 years and other people have been flying for 30 years, we kind of know what a child might be experiencing, that if a parent knew it and they could easily remedy it, we would not be in that situation. So just some helpful tips. If you know anybody who has children and they're about to get on a flight, or you just say, oh, do you know what to do with your baby? Because you saw that video, cursing man versus crying baby, and you don't want to be that parent, or you don't want to have somebody just act out like that because of your baby crying when it could have been solved. So bring your own baby food. For if your baby has special needs, bring the baby food, bring the diapers, and bring distractors. And I mean, like, bring stuff, it's something that a lot of parents do is they bring like their own little personal devices for the little kiddies to look at, their own little movies. And that's great. But what they forget to do is to bring earbuds so they can plug up into the machine, because I don't want to hear Sesame Street. I don't want to hear, who is it, Dora the Explorer, whatever kids look at now. I don't want to hear that. And neither do the other people in the cabin want to hear what your child is listening to. Now, unlike this dude, most people won't say anything. They'll just like grin and bear it. I'm listening to, 2 hours of Sesame Street, as long as the baby is fine. But I find myself, and I'm sure other flight attendants find themselves, going up to the person and saying, hey, because I'll say, do you have earbuds for the baby's little thing? And they're like, oh, no, we don't. Okay, y'all need to remember that if you bring a personal device, you need to bring some earbuds with that personal device. Okay. And so I'll go and try to find some earbuds for them. And I normally have some. That's why I always carry some with me. But at any rate, that's for, babies that you can work with, as far as that they are of age where they will sit still and look at something and be engaged, so you don't have to worry about them crying. But for smaller babies, on takeoff and landing especially, their ears, just like your ears, hurt on takeoff and landing because of the change in the air pressure in the cabin. Their baby ears hurt. And so they can't tell you that, oh, my ears hurt and I need to swallow, or my ears hurt and I need to do this and blow my nose and that'll make my ears pop. Babies don't know that. Your parents are supposed to know that. So if your baby is an infant, bring a bottle at least, or a pacifier, so they can suck on it and swallow, and it'll make their ears pop, and it'll open up the pressure, take the pressure off of their ears. So that sometimes, most of the time, is what's going on. Of course, they need to be changed if they are hungry. There's lots of reasons, but you as a parent or the guardian of a child need to understand there are some other things that you need to be concerned about, especially in close proximity with other people. As far as my book, it is an Amazon bestseller. Can you believe it? So you can go on Amazon, The Do's and Don'ts of Flying, A Flight Attendant's Guide to Airline Travel Secrets. And for the first 25 people who email me or direct message me, I will send you a free copy. So I talk about in the book airport security, respect the process. I talk about temper tantrums. Girl, I was on it. I was on this before that dude did his temper tantrum. I talk about aromatherapy. That's talking about don't bring food on the plane that like fish. Don't eat fish on the plane full of people. Like boiled eggs, although people do it all the time. It would be better if you did not do that on the plane all the time. When other people, because like oranges, lemon lime type stuff, things that are not so aromatic. That's what I would say is more acceptable. So yeah. Now, most babies, like I said, cry during takeoff and landing, and it's because of their ears. So bring a bottle, bring some little candy or food or something for them to suck on and make their ears pop. And then just be prepared. And here's something, a sidebar. I'm amazed at the number of people, which is getting less because things are going electronic. But people who get on a plane going to another country or just like living their lives, and they don't have like an ink pen, or they don't have the simplest things that you would think a person would need. I've even had parents ask me, you got a coloring book or you got some crayons? No, we do not. Now, you might come across a flight attendant who has crayons or something like that. That's because they just want to be like extra prepared. And I like to be extra prepared, but trust and believe, I don't carry around crayons and coloring books. I'm not that prepared because I'm not anybody's mama. Okay. So, yeah, read up on being prepared when you travel with children. And if any FAs listening want to talk to me later about their experience, I'd love to hear it. We might start doing a video call where we invite flight attendants to come and talk about their experience with the latest information about what's going on flights. That would be neat. So we have to coexist. If you can stand to be sitting next to a pet on a plane, then you can stand to be sitting in a cabin with a baby that cries. That's just my opinion. I feel like we are becoming more intolerant of each other as human beings. And we're becoming more tolerant of animals. We love dogs and pets and stuff more than we love people. And that is, in my opinion, is just not it's not going in the right direction. So to find out more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. It's at eurweb.com. Thanks and